Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 3 of Build and Grow Money Matters, a series dedicated to helping businesses go beyond financial management to achieve financial growth, resilience, and innovation. As businesses continue to revive and pivot to newer models in these tough times, Your Story is proud to partner with HSBC for another season of inspiring conversations, insights, and observations. We feature some of the newest trendsetters in business and stalwarts of the ecosystem to help businesses power the next phase of growth and business continuity. Let me give you some background of today's speaker. We have with us today Samarth Agarwal, co-founder and CEO of MaxWholesale.com, a B2B e-commerce company which is looking to transform India's supply chains through technology tools and its e-commerce platform. Samarth is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and Columbia University in New York. He has worked extensively across verticals in the world of finance. Before founding MaxWholesale.com, he had worked in various roles with companies like American Express and Pinnacle Systems. Welcome aboard the program, Samarth.
Thank you, Madan. Thank you. Great to be here.
Good to have you on board. Let's begin with a bit of your backstory. You've had an incredible journey so far from a humble start in 2014. You crossed the $50 million revenue mark in 2020. So, how would you describe your journey so far? What challenges did you overcome and what's your status right now? Samad?
Thank you, Madan. Interesting question. It's been quite a fascinating journey for myself and my team. What we are doing is we are providing an application to Kirana stores. And what we do on that application is we show inventory which is available to them from our warehouses near their stores. And we provide them with next day delivery of items that they buy on our app. So we are a B2B e-commerce setup. And India is a large country, not just in population, but also in size in terms of geography. And we have about 1.4 billion people, which comprises of 300 million families. And these 300 million families are supported by a set of 10 to 15 million Kirana stores. And these Kirana stores are providing around 3,000 to 4,000 items at any given point in time to the families. So that's how India buys groceries, right? These Kirana stores keep running out of products in their stores, and they need a way to procure inventory. Now, in 2014-15, when I was researching this field, I came to know that Kirana stores did not really have any way to procure products on demand. What they needed to do was to shut down their stores and go to the market once a week or once in 2 weeks, or some of them more frequently, depending on the cash they have available in their wallets. And they'll procure those products and bring back to their stores. And that was not that easy because you have to shut down your stores. That's loss of business. Then you don't know what you're going to get when you go to the market. You don't know what prices you will get. There was no transparency. And coming from a technology background, I thought maybe this can be done better, right? I can add a layer of transparency to the entire system. And we started Max Wholesale in 2016. We provided them with an application where they could see all the products and place orders, and we'll deliver it the next day. It's been a tremendous journey. We started with just 30 retailers to begin with. I used to do deliveries myself back in the days. And we just started with 30 retailers, and word of mouth growth was so strong. We were receiving large orders in thousands of rupees. Unit economics made sense, delivery was profitable, and we quickly grew from 30 to 300 stores, and then from 300 to 3,000 stores, which is when we did our Series A round of funding. We got more capital to increase our operational capabilities, and now we are at 30,000 stores. So the platform has grown very quickly from 30 to 300 to 3,000 to 30,000 retailers now. And now we are on a journey to grow this to $300,000 and hopefully to $3 million retailers on our platform one day.
That's an amazing story there, Samarth, especially that personal detail of how you yourself did some of the early deliveries personally. Let's turn now to some of the trends in this industry. How has India's retail supply chain evolved in the past year, and what impact has it had on your customer base, our traditional Kirana stores of India? Samarth?
A few things have happened over the last 3 to 4 years. If you see, if in terms of formalization of economy, the government has rolled out GST. There was a demonetization event, which brought adoption of mobile payment systems and digital payment systems. And then there was this launch of Geo network, which brought the adoption of networks. internet telephony. So just like in the B2C e-commerce segment, where we have started consuming products from the internet, buying products online as mainstream, same things have happened in Kirana store world, where Kirana stores also have better expectations from their suppliers, like more transparency in their supply, more transparency in pricing, faster deliveries. So the way this supply chain ecosystem has evolved with the use of technology is that there is more and more adoption of technology tools. Kirana stores are today accepting payments using mobile telephony. They're accepting payments using UPI framework or credit cards and debit cards, and they have machines available in their stores like POS machines. Similarly, Kirana stores are now using applications to procure inventory, to provide more variety to their customers, to increase the customer delight. As well as Kirana stores are becoming more capital efficient with the use of technology because they are able to buy more variety with the same amount of funds they used to have. That's number one. And number two, Kirana stores are able to get it faster. So they are less out of stock, right? Interestingly enough, Kirana stores are also using technology to connect with their customers. So not just for doing transactions in their stores, but also for collecting orders from their neighborhoods. So what at Max Wholesale, what we are providing them is solutions for all these three things. So we are providing them solutions for procuring inventory. We are providing them solutions for doing transactions using UPI. And we are providing them solutions for connecting with their customers in their neighborhood with a CRM technology.
Thanks, Samar. That's a very important shift you identified, the digital shift. The other big question on people's heads, of course, these days is the COVID-19 pandemic. We are still in different stages of lockdown or unlockdown right now. So clearly, supply chain resiliency has been a key concern for retailers during the pandemic. Can you share with us some details on how Max Wholesale is fortifying or improving supply chains across the country, Samar?
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, all of us went through a pretty terrible phase back in March 2020. It started when the entire country went into a lockdown. And what we observed is that on our platform, overnight, the number of orders and the value of orders became 10x, literally in like one night. The number of orders or the value of orders we used to get in 10 days, we were getting it in one day, right? At the same time, the number of employees in the company became 1/3 because a lot of people were not, because of the lockdown, there was lack of ability to travel to work. There was a license needed to be able to come out of the house as an essential worker. So these kind of problems reduce the availability of staff in the office. So while there was a 10x jump in demand, there was 1/3 supply of workforce. Now, in that environment of high intensity, you need to make quick decisions. And how maxwholesale.com supported the ecosystem is, number one, our system digitized communication. See, typically Kirana store environment is a very offline environment where salespeople will come to the store, collect orders, and then they will be filled from the distribution centers in a week's time. What maxwholesale.com has done to supply chain is it has converted offline communication to online communication. You don't need to visit a store to collect an order. A store, you can reach out to him through notifications, through the mobile app, and that is a safer environment compared to an offline face-to-face meeting environment of supply chain that we used to be in. So that is one aspect that we have brought to the supply chain industry, digital communication. Apart from that, we have also brought a very important concept of real-time inventory management, right? So traditionally, supply chain industry did not have visibility on inventory, how much inventory is available where. And FMCG companies were at a loss, Kirana stores were at a loss, supply demand matching was inefficient, and there was a lot of working capital locked in the supply chain. What maxwholesale.com system has done is it has enabled real-time visibility of inventory. So the working capital requirement of the entire supply chain goes down, right? So that's the second impact. So communication is digital, working capital requirement is lower, and very important key concept about supply chain is that management of cash, it costs around 0.4% of the entire supply chain cost. Just managing cash, collecting the bills, counting them, taking them to the bank, depositing it in the accounts. What we have done is we have digitized the cash component of the supply chain. So we save money on cash handling by digitizing the transactions. So these are the different aspects in which we have brought in efficiencies in the entire supply chain stack from top to bottom.
Thanks, Samar. You described the business models and processes very well. Tell us a little bit more about your technology stack. How has your technology stack brought about more efficiency, productivity, and resilience in retail supply chains, Samar?
Absolutely. See, one of the very important aspects to understand about the retail supply chain business is that we are dealing with thousands of different products, right, which are constantly evolving. A toothpaste, which is 50 grams today, might become 45 grams or 55 grams the next week. So how do you actually make a supply chain ecosystem which deals with such level of complexity where there are thousands of products constantly evolving, changing pictures, changing prices, and the description of the product? That is number one problem. Second problem in this industry is that we are dealing with highly unskilled or semi-skilled labor, right? Bottom of the pyramid staff. And you can't depend on very readable, an environment where you need to read a lot of English or Hindi. So you need to depend on images. So what we have built in our technology stack is this ability to do supply chain distribution like a black box. Like we have built the operating system of supply chain distribution on which unskilled people can work on one side for the fulfillment of supply chain without making any errors. So it's just that what the stack we have built is a Six Sigma stack. It doesn't allow people to make errors, 100% fulfillment without errors, very efficiently, while dealing in a very complex environment of thousands of products. So that's what we have built. So in order to be able to do that, we have built inventory management, which is real-time in nature. We have built order taking e-commerce systems. We have made logistics systems. We have made risk management systems, purchase systems, all these kind of systems which are algorithms internally in the company which talk to each other. And these algorithms make sure that the system is dump-proof, it's efficient, it's transparent, and it's sustainable. So that's our technology.
Thanks, Samar. You described the business models, the capabilities and opportunities very well. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the challenges. You mentioned earlier that one of the challenges you faced was almost a 1/3 drop for some time in your workforce. Many companies have faced cash flow situation problems. There's also a lot of fear, worry, and anxiety in employees, partners, and so on. How did you manage to handle all of this, and what lessons have you taken away as a leader in crisis? Samar?
Sure. So obviously, a very tough time as a leader, as well as everyone else in the company and in the team. One of the key things that we have focused on, so we have always worked with a couple of principles. Number one, our people are most important to us, right? So a good leader's job is to make his people feel safe, right? That's when they work with the leader, right? So Max Wholesale has always ensured that our employees they always feel safe, they are always actually safe, and we provide them the environment to be able to work in this adverse time. So for example, one of the things that we did when there was lockdown in the country is that being a logistics company in the supply chain domain, we in the early morning and at late night, we used our own logistics for our people first. So our people will get a pickup from home. There would be only one person in one vehicle. He will be brought to the office, the warehouse, to be able to work. And then in the evening, the same vehicle is responsible for dropping the person at home before going back to the station. So we ensured that everyone is getting safe pickup and drop off. We also got a lot of apartments near our warehouses for our employees, because a lot of employees were having issues with their landlords, because a lot of employees live on rent. And landlords are not very comfortable with their employees going to work, coming back home in the evening. They might become couriers or spreaders of COVID. So what we did was we quickly identified apartments near our warehouse, which we can rent and provide that as a facility to our employees in a safe environment, along with food. We also gave them certain increase in salary because they were taking risk, so to be able to price that in. Apart from that, we also took very important decisions of investing in a lot of tools for people to be able to work in a distance environment. So for example, instead of having a single work shift, we converted that into 2 shifts. So there was half the number of people in the warehouse at any given point in time. So these kind of measures allowed us to give safety to our people, and our team actually quickly grew. So from being 1/3 in staff, we actually became 3x in staff. Before the pandemic, we were about 55 people strong. During the pandemic, we became about 170 people strong. So we actually hired more people, given the processes we had already set. People were happy. It's a tech-based system. So our employees, they listen to music while working with their headphones, and they are picking orders, they are packing. It's like an orchestra, right? And it works, it makes music. And that's what we have been able to achieve very well during the pandemic. And our system has proven its value in the supply chain ecosystem.
An orchestra which makes music. That's such a great way of describing how leadership works. Samarth, that's very inspiring for our audience, definitely. The other big challenge, Samarth, in these times of uncertainty is decision making. You've seen a lot of market changes, ups and downs, and cycles in the market. How has this given you better ability to deal with uncertainty and make better decisions about issues like finance? Samarth?
So absolutely, I'm one of those few fortunate people who are actually able to use what they learn in college in their work. So I studied computer science, I studied mathematics at IIT Delhi, I studied finance at Columbia University. And what I'm doing today is actually a culmination of these 3 different verticals of computer science, mathematics, and finance. Because in supply chain, first of all, we are solving a problem of scale and fragmentation and bringing all of that on one system. So you need computers, you need algorithms to solve it. So it's a problem that mobile phones, internet, computers together can genuinely solve: communication. So that is one. Mathematics. So we use a lot of algorithms in our business. For example, one of the key principles we work with is to have very less managers in the company. A lot of decision making is done by the computers. How do they do that? They take a lot of data from the market, live data of our users, live data of our inventory, and live pricing data, and they make these automated decisions as to what are the different action items that the teams should be doing. These action items are distributed to the teams via mobile apps. Max Wholesale is a cluster of 13 mobile applications. Only one is visible to our customer on which he is placing an order. There are other 12 applications internally on which our employees work without needing to communicate with each other face to face. So that is where we use our mathematics. Now coming to finance, supply chain is a business where managing capital and taking the right risk, allocating capital according to risk is very important. Because if you distribute too much money in the supply chain and you become a positive working capital company, it becomes difficult to scale it. So managing capital with some sort of financial engineering, where the company remains a negative working capital company, it ensures scalability of the entire ecosystem. So with my financial knowledge background, what I have been able to do is not just build these algorithms which manage risk, but also allocate capital prudently as to which category should have what risk limit and how much inventory should we carry in that particular category. So I think this is one thing that I find very fascinating in my current business, which is ability to add value with my knowledge of computer science, math, and finance together.
Thanks, Samarth. Speaking of capital allocation, let's turn to some questions about finance now. You raised $3 million in Series A funding from the Indian Angel Network Fund 1 and from the Abu and Al Falaj Investment Company in February last year. So tell us a little bit about how the pandemic affected the way this capital was deployed. Can you share some of your lessons on how to conserve capital during tough times? Samarth?
Yeah, absolutely. So very interesting environment, pandemic. We all were in a lockdown situation. What nobody knew is when is this thing going to end, and that's life, right? So so one has to be able to move from a growth at all cost kind of mindset to a prudent, profitable, sustainable growth mindset, right? So it's a shift of mindset altogether. We raised our Series A funding of $3 million from IAN Fund, which is a Cat 1 AIF registered in India, and from Al Falaj Investments from Abu Dhabi, which is another private equity and venture capital fund. We are one of their first investments in India. Not just in India, we are their first investment in Asia. So we sort of represent the continent over there, right? So it's an important responsibility on our shoulders to create shareholder value. So be able to create shareholder value, we need to create sustainable systems which are prudent in usage of finance. To be able to do that, the entire mindset during the lockdown, we had to change the mindset towards profitability. So we ensured that each and every cost item is being tracked, and each and every cost item is being discussed and validated whether it's needed or can be cut down on cost here. At the same time, during the lockdown, one thing that happened is a lot of offline systems moved to online systems. That increases the density of our deliveries. Our average order value, for example, increased from 3,000 rupees to 15,000 rupees, a 5x jump in AOV. That enabled us to do profitable deliveries without needing to charge a delivery fee from our retailers. So these kind of lucky breaks, I would say, during the lockdown, where our AOV went 5x, our volumes, we grew about 12 times in the last 15 months. So these kind of growth, along with the ability to maintain a culture of focusing on profitable business, has enabled us to not just outdo the expectations of our investors, but also get a lot of inbound interest from new investors.
Thanks, Samarth. For the last few questions, I'd like to turn more to your role as a leader. You shared with us a few leadership points, a few leadership commitments earlier. Can you tell us a little bit more about your key leadership takeaways from the pandemic? Are there any learnings that you can share with the founders in our audience on leadership during tough times? Samarth?
Absolutely. See, I believe that every crisis brings the focus towards a weakness, because that is where things start breaking. And as a leader's role is to be able to fix those weaknesses and use them as a very scarcely available teacher, right? So from every crisis, we have to have a mindset of learning. That first the crisis will come, then you will see the weakness. Now you need to quickly learn that this is my weakness. Acceptance is the key. And the moment you accept it, that is when, as a leader, if you have open communication about the weakness, people come together to convert that challenge into an opportunity of improvement. And as long as we are honest and communicating about it. So a couple of key things that I saw in the lockdown period, the crisis. It was a crisis of communication, mainly. Back in the days in 2019, early 2020, face-to-face meeting was the thing. If we could meet somebody face-to-face, the kind of meeting that will happen would be really amazing. But all of a sudden, that face-to-face culture, that offline meeting culture in sales, in deliveries, in taking orders, in meeting with people, went away because we couldn't do that anymore. And there was a communication crisis, even within the teams. For example, during the lockdown, how do you hire new people? How do you ensure they understand the culture of your company? How do you ensure that your team is growing and you are hiring people with Zoom interviews, and you are ensuring that they feel part of the system without being in an office environment? Sustaining a team is one thing. Growing it during the pandemic is a totally different experience, right? So how do you ensure that somebody who is joining your company understands the culture of your company and feels comfortable in that culture and becomes a part of it? So what we did as a company was to take our communication very seriously, use all the tools available in the market, and try all the tools available in the market and see which tool enables better communication. Provide those tools to your team, do drumbeat meetings, and ensure that everyone is able to voice out their opinions. So give that kind of an environment. So we did a lot of these kind of drills, which has really helped our team to be able to work comfortably from home. And we have hired so many new people who are all become a part of Max Wholesale family, uh, while they have not been able to travel from these micro cities to Gurgaon just yet.
Thanks so much. Those are such hard-earned lessons you've shared with us. In theory, it sounds nice. A crisis is also an opportunity, but you've shown us actually how it really works on the ground in the flesh and blood and in the real life of an organization. For the last couple of questions, let's turn to the question of finance. The name of this program is Money Matters. So let me now ask you, what is your relationship to money? You've talked about some of the professional aspects of money for a company, but maybe what is your personal attitude towards money? What is your philosophical attitude towards money in your life, in the future, and so on? Samad?
So I believe there are other key aspects about money that we need to take into consideration. For example, we need to be patient about growth of capital. We should not be impatient about it. Any good thing in life that you said philosophically, so I'm getting a little philosophical here. Great, you must have observed that the things that you really relish, great things that you really enjoy, be it a painting or a building or something that you have built, takes time. You can't build great things overnight. So same thing with money. If you want good returns, and if you want to really have an environment where the risk reward is good, risk is low, reward is high, you need to be in an environment of patience, and you need to make patient bets and give it time to grow. Shouldn't chase overnight success. It doesn't work that way, in my view, in terms of money or in terms of any other thing of value in your life. It's important to treat things like, how you're making a plant in a garden. So to be able to make a garden, you need to water it, and you need to be patient and slowly, tend to each and every plant in the garden. And with time, you will see a very nice blooming garden in your house.
Thanks, Samad. You've described businesses in such poetic ways. It's like music, orchestra, it's like a garden. For the last question, let's talk a bit more about your experiences with working with people in the finance area. You've worked with investors, banks, lenders, and so on. What are your expectations from how they should deal with a business? Samad?
So it's a very important relationship for a business. The one key raw material for any business is money, right? Capital. Capital is the key ingredient that goes into growth of a company. And the role of financial institutions is critical. It's very important for a financial institution to be able to be innovative and creative while dealing with young companies which are at the forefront of a sector, which are at the cutting edge of a sector. So for example, with HSBC, we have been able to find a very good partner, financial partner for our journey. They are super energetic, they're super creative, they are able to come to us with the latest possibilities, and they never say no. So basically, even if something has not been developed yet, when I go to them with an idea, they come to the drawing board and think as to, okay, how can my team build this out for you? And we can launch it in the market. For example, we worked with HSBC and with NPCI to build a UPI solution just for Kirana stores, which is geared more towards the B2B transactions of UPI. Generally, UPI is geared towards B2C transaction, where the necessities are different. In the B2B environment, transactions are much larger, and the kind of UI you need, the kind of protections you need are completely different. So we have developed that with HSBC. I think another great thing about a financial institution that you work with is that they shouldn't nickel and dime you, because you're in a tough environment, especially during the lockdown. So a financial institution has to think long-term with its client. And I think we have found a great partner in HSBC in that terms as well.
Thanks so much, Samad. This has been a fantastic conversation. I think 3 key takeaways from us are the 3 C's: cash flow, capability, and commitment. So capabilities, every company needs very good capability in digital technology, in business, finance, customer relationships, UX, UI, and so on. Second, cash and cash flow. Make sure you run a very tight shop during tough times and have a very good relationship with your bankers and financiers, sorry. And thirdly, you need to have very good commitment to your customers, commitment to your employees, during a time of crisis. Thanks so much, Samar. This has been a fantastic conversation. We wish you all the best in your journey ahead. On behalf of all of us at Your Story, thank you so much for your insights today. Thank you, Samar.
Thank you, Madan, for having me. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Thanks.